The Department of Education does not educate one child as we look at how we can shut down the Department of Education.
Do they not operate efficiently now? So I'm not quite sure how eliminating the Department of Education is going to make those test scores go up.
Let's hop into a few clips of CNN's Dana Bash interviewing Linda McMahon, the Secretary for the Department of Education, further highlighting the ineptitude of the Trump administration in her answers. So buckle in, be sure to leave a like, it helps us out a ton and totally free. And let's get into the video.
I think we're looking at putting things in different departments where they can operate very efficiently as we look at how we can shut down the Department of Education.
Do they not operate efficiently now?
Not as well as they should be. As a matter of fact, the president campaigned on the fact that he wanted to close down the Department of Education. And what we saw with our scores recently with the NAEP, which is our country's report card, I mean, it's unacceptable where education is in our country today.
We're gonna let her keep going because it gets worse, but just to point out, when asked on Fox News a few weeks ago what IDEA is, she didn't know, which is the act that enables the Department of Education to ensure disabled children have a quality education. So she is completely just speaking out of her ass. You can believe she doesn't know any of what she's saying here. Moving these to other agencies with a multitude of other main focuses only puts less focus on these programs. That's why an agency specifically with the purpose to focus on them was created. That'll make them less efficient. Pushing them to the back burner inevitably will probably lead to them being less funded overall as well. While, as we'll get into with the next clip, not helping any of the problems that they're speaking of it helping.
The Department of Education does not educate one child. It does not establish any curriculum in any states. It doesn't hire teachers. It doesn't establish programs. What it is more of a pass-through of funding, which is appropriated by Congress, by the way. And so we want to make sure that that funding continues in the departments where it needs to be, but at the same time, give states the opportunities to be innovative and creative with their teaching.
Yeah, what this means is more private or charter schools that have no actual regulations for their curriculum, no standards for needing to cater to special needs students or programs to ensure that lower income families have the same resources or can get in at the same rates. It all leads to a bunch of ultra-Christian nationalist schools indoctrinating children from a young age, where most end up closing within a few years of opening. It's literally the Wild West at this point. And what they won't tell you is the performance at these schools, at private schools, is just boosted by the barrier of not admitting low-income students, because we find socioeconomic status is the most important factor in educational success, of which the Department of Education acts as a stopgap for the less fortunate, which these crooks, of course, now want to defund because they don't really care about the less fortunate.
There's lots of data that shows that, I think, to put it mildly, education could be better in America.
Absolutely.
But you also just admitted, and it's just fact, that most of the funding, most of all of the curriculum, and everything that goes into educating our students happens on a local level. So I'm not quite sure how eliminating the Department of Education is going to make those test scores go up.
Well, a lot of the funding that goes into states now goes with a lot of red tape, a lot of strings attached to it. And so governors and state superintendents of education have said, look, if we have the funding coming in which allows us to be more creative, how can we spend that?
She's clearly just learning about all of this, like what the Department of Education does. Again, weeks ago, couldn't answer basic questions, and she's having to stick to these kind of cookie cutter answers that feel right out of a textbook, where she hasn't yet learned to do the Republican weave, if you will, to lie about the things that are inconvenient to the point you want to make. She doesn't realize in explaining what the Department of Education actually does, how it doesn't hire teachers, how it doesn't do curriculum, that it shows that in no way it affects the test score. So how could that be the justification for removing the Department of Education test scores, which are brought down predominantly by red states? Mind you, in reality, these people want more privatization in education for two core reasons, and they're willing to leave low-income and disabled students behind to achieve those. The first is they just want to line their pockets. When public funding goes away, the wealthy step in and they make more profits as corporations get formed, and they privatize things and they prioritize profit to quality. And the second is, of course, the indoctrination. Almost all cheaper in private schools, charter schools, schools that most of the middle and lower class will be forced into as they couldn't afford the wealthier one or the more expensive ones. They're the ultra Christian nationalist schools. They're the ones that put you on the path to lifelong religious conservatism from first grade and then close within 3 years. So you're left finding a new school by fourth grade. This is why we need Democrats to fight like hell, and we need to mobilize and defend our public education system before it's too late.